fasten your seatbelts, because we're going to have some... I want to give you a little bit of a background to those of you who are not familiar with me, and there are some new people here. I did work in the government for over 25 years. I spent 13 of those years at the Montauk Project from 1970 to 1983. And that project did involve mind control, genetic manipulation, and then moved on into other bizarre experimentations as time travel, weaponry, research, and weather control, which is well underway now and quite established. As for my history, why I was involved in this, why me particularly, they look for people with certain type of genetics, people who have a predisposition for mental activities that you would call psychic or otherwise. Also has to do with my great uncle being the first president of the Soviet Union and my family being involved in government activity on both sides of the Atlantic ever since that time. My grandmother was a Russian spy in World War II, and my grandfather was actually sent to this country to start the Communist Party in the United States, which he did in the 1920s and 30s. And then he disappeared somewhere in the 1960s. That's how I came to do this kind of work. When I was in Montauk in 1983, that project crashed. And those of you who are interested in the details of that, you can read about that in the Montauk Alien Connection book out there in the lobby. And tonight I want to discuss mostly the latest book that I have written called Blue Blood, True Blood, Conflict and Creation, which is, how many of you have read that book? Just a couple of you. And in that book I write about what I know as the true history of the Earth based on the information I received during those 25 years working for the people who control this planet. There's a lot of history, if not almost 100% of history, and what you've learned in school that is completely false. Ideas, scenarios, events that have either been made up completely or that have been changed or altered in some way to fit the agenda of those who control the planet. I'm going to make a very, very long story short because we don't have that much time to talk about things, and I do want to give you, and now the story, the history of the Earth, as you know, is millions of years old. In actuality, the story of human beings on the Earth is very short in comparison. It's less than 1 million years old. And the original colonists on this planet, again, I'm condensing a lot because you can read about it in that book, were reptilian beings. Reptilians represent about 25% of the population of this galaxy. Human life form represents about 70% of the life forms in this particular galaxy, and then 5% are other types of beings of various proportions. If you think that in this galaxy alone there are an estimated 100 billion, and if only 1/10 of 1% of all of those stars had intelligent life, that would still be millions of civilizations. Interestingly enough, on this little planet, in this sector, there's only a couple of interactions compared to all those millions of civilizations. Now, going back into history, this planet was actually uninhabitable, and it was occupying the second orbit around the sun, and it was a watery planet. And the human civilizations that existed in this galaxy originated in what is called the Lyrian star system. And I'll put that word up on the board for you because you may hear it a lot in the future. The star system was called Lyrae. And for all intents and purposes, that was the home star system of all human life in this galaxy. And there is another star system that can be seen, I believe, from the southern hemisphere that is called Draco. And it was from here that the reptilian civilizations or beings existed, and they actually attacked the Lyrian civilization and broke it up into many pieces. And the refugees of the Lyrian star system fanned out throughout this sector of the galaxy and occupied a lot of the star systems that are within this particular sector. So that is what the Dracos have done, or the Draconians have done. And they occupied the Earth first. They were the very first colonists on this planet. And in fact, it was their actions that changed the Earth from a water world to one that had inhabitable land masses. And this was close to 1 million years ago. Now, I understand that many of what has been given to you in science as far as carbon dating and fossil dating, dinosaurs being tens and hundreds of million years old, well, most of that is incorrect. If you understand the science of carbon dating, it is very faulty. And it depends on certain atmospheric conditions, and it also depends on the type of soil that the bones are buried in. And in fact, what may appear at some points to be tens of millions of years old may be in effect only a few thousand years old in actuality. So eventually this information will be given out to the public when a new revision of history is given to you towards the end of next year, officially. And so the Draco occupied this planet first. Human refugees from the Lyrian star system came here many thousands of years later. And there were many clashes between the two because reptilian and mammalian life forms are not conducive to living together. They need different environment, they need different type of food, they need different type of culture, and they don't mix. So there was always conflict. And at one point it was decided that there would be some type of effort to stop the fighting and to merge the two sides together. And this is what the Bible talks about in the chapter Genesis. Now understand, the Bible is not to be taken literally. It is an allegory. It is a coded history. So it was obviously not written by people as you know it. They decided to make a third race of people, one that would be considered native to the earth. And the deal was that they would mix reptilian with human genetics to create a new race. Now, the reptilians were androgynous. That means there was male and female within the same body. There was not a separation of sexes. And so in order to create this third race, the reptilians only agreed to it if a reptilian body was used first and human genetics were added to it. And this is why in the Bible it says, "Let us make man in our image." It's plural. And in the Old Testament, all references to God are plural, as if it were more than one. And that's why it says, "Let us make man in our image." And the story of Eve being created from the rib of Adam is an allegorical story of an androgynous reptilian body being separated into male and female components. Prove this, any of you who are in the medical profession, all you have to do is look at how a human fetus gestates in the womb, and you will see that it starts out reptilian-like, and then as it develops, it becomes more human-like.